Hey guys, what's up? Francisco here with Valereso Capital, and today I'm gonna bring you the weekly watch list for the week of the 7th of February 7th, 2022. We're gonna discuss the markets, we're gonna discuss the Nasdaq Composite, and then I'm gonna share with you five of the setups that I'm looking at right now. So let's just get started with it. So here, first of all, I have the Nasdaq Composite in my screen. As you can see, we had a pretty intense move to the downside, right? We had the squeeze, we had the sell signal, and then we have the trigger, and then we had a pretty strong correction, somewhere around 18% from the highs of November. And right now, as we can see, we had a follow through day right here in this day, and then we had a really strong bounce, somewhere around 8%. But the level at which the market is bouncing is actually a pretty interesting level and is actually pretty textbook if we take a look at it. So let's just start analyzing a little bit. If we run some Fibonacci retracements from this peak right here into the follow through day right here, we have a 618 retracement. And for those of you who follow Fibonacci, you know that the 0618 tends to be a really important level in terms of resistance or support. And since the price is coming from the underside of the level, we can consider that this is going to be really strong resistance. As you can see, price did not close above that level, and it also came into a downturn, into a downtrending 21 exponential moving average. So you shouldn't be surprised that after a 4-day rally that we had right here, that we actually pause at that level. So what I'm looking right now here in the Nasdaq Composite is the possibility that we're gonna retest these lows or probably even break them. Why I'm saying why what is the reason that I'm saying this? First of all, we are still below a declining 50 daily moving average, which is the line in purple right here, and we continue to be below a declining 21 exponential moving average. So as long as we continue to be below these levels, the path of least resistance continue to be to the downside. Now, as you can see, the momentum in the RAF indicator continues to be bearish, as you can see in the middle line being red. And also what is really important to notice is that I'm starting to get some buying exhaustion signals. As you can see, the brown color right here usually signals buying exhaustion signals. And what happens after that, in most of the times, is that we get some moves to the downside. So I'm starting to get the same exhaustion here, and we are below the key moving averages. So I consider that the path of least resistance continue to be to the downside. So what I'm looking right now is if the market is able to close above this level, perhaps we get a strong move into the decline in 50 DMA. But if the market is unable to close above this level, I think there's a high probability that we're going to retest the lows down here. So that is what I'm looking into in the Nasdaq Composite. So now let's move into the in some of the names that I'm watching, which I think can be tradable moves to the downside. So let's start with the SPY futures here, right? I have in the screen I have the ES, which is the mini contracts for the S&P 500. And what I'm seeing right now is kind of the same that I was looking in the Nasdaq Composite, right? We have the follow through day right here, followed by the buy signal, and we're having kind of the same move, right? We're having the move that is coming into a decline in 50 daily moving average. And we also have the move that came above the 21 exponential moving average, but we have two daily closes below that level. And I'm getting the same exhaustion signals in what is a pretty pronounced, not really strong, but considerable bearish momentum. So I think there's a strong possibility that the SPY is gonna pull one of these, right? Perhaps it's gonna come down here, make a higher low in the best case scenario for the bulls. But I think that we have to take into consideration the possibility that this is just a retracement in what is a bearish trend. So I think that you can structure your trade. As always, you can decide what is going to be your weapon. You can use puts, you can short the S&P 500, or you can trade some spreads, some call credit spreads. But I think you can use this 50 DMA as your stop. Any daily close above it is going to be really strong for the bulls. But of course, use this level here as your stop, and you can start looking at these levels down here for your target. So this will give you a really nice 3 to 1 risk reward, and it's a trade in which I think the momentum and the trend is in your favor if you're gonna trade it to the downside. So that's the first name that I wanted to take a look at it. Now let's take a look at Adobe. Right, this is the following name that I have right here, and what we can see here in Adobe is that I kind of have the same patterns that we were looking at, right? We have the move coming up here into the decline in 21 exponential moving average. We have 3-day closes above it, but what happened the next day is that we gap down, we closed below that decline in 21 exponential moving average, and now we got rejected at the 8 exponential moving average, which is the orange line that I have in my screens. As you can see, we have an active squeeze, and let me just zoom in into this squeeze, right? We can see that the squeeze is already starting to point lower. So this is a slingshot squeeze to the downside, which is a bearish signal. And I'm also getting a sell signal with some buying exhaustion. And usually these buying exhaustions give us a high probability suggestion that the next move is going to be to the downside. So the way I think you can structure this trade, you can do it with stocks, puts, or spreads. I think you can use this high as your stop, and of course this low right here as your target, trying to get the entry as close to the 21 exponential moving average as possible, and that will give you a really nice 2 to 1 risk reward for Adobe. Now moving into the CB. This move kind of, I think this was a move that already started. So perhaps if you want to get into this trade, perhaps you're a little bit late because it's already extended to the downside into -2 ATR. This is the CB future contracts, or as many of you know, the TLT for the bonds. So you can see what happened with the bonds, right? We had the squeeze, we had the move into a decline in 21 EMA right here, and now we're getting rejected. And I think that if we are going to get the same correlation that we had in the past, in which bonds are moving lower and tech also moves lower, I think this is a really strong suggestion that the moves that we were talking in Adobe and the one that I'm going to talk in Snowflake and Microsoft are going to be pretty high probability moves to the downside as well. So as you can see right now, the bonds got rejected at the 21 exponential moving average, and right now, we're starting to get the move to the downside. I think there's a strong possibility that we're going to take out these lows right here. And the first target is going to be the Fibonacci extension of the 1.618. And then we're going to have the next Fibonacci extension, which is the 2.618 to the downside. We have an active sell signal. And as you can see also here, the squeeze is already pointing to the downside as well. So I think that's a pretty high probability move for the bears. And if you want to participate, just be aware that this is actually a little bit extended, and that any move into the declining ADMA should be considered a really nice entry point for a bearish position. Now let's move into Snowflake, and this one is one that I'm currently in. I'm trading this one via call credit spreads, which is a bearish position, and I'm using this level right here as my stop, and I'm using this level right here as my target, using the 21 exponential moving average as my entry. And this will give me a really nice 2 to 1 risk reward, or perhaps a little bit more. So we have the active squeeze, but I'm trading in the direction of the overall pattern. And as you can see, Snowflake is trying to get above the 21 EMA, but haven't been able to do it. So I'm just using a pretty tight stop in the upside, and then using this move down as my target. Now let's move into the final name that I have for you. This is Microsoft. And what I'm looking here in Microsoft is pretty similar to the SPY that we already discussed. We had this really strong move to the downside. Then we have a really strong move to the upside as a bounce. We have the active buy signal. And then, as you can see here, we are below a declining 50-day moving average. And most of the times, the 50 DMA is considered a really strong level for institutional support or resistance. And as you can see, as Microsoft approaches this level, I think there's a high probability chance that Microsoft is going to consolidate a little bit here before starting its next leg lower. Why I'm saying this? Basically, because of the things that we just mentioned in the bonds and also the things that we already mentioned in the Nasdaq Composite. And I think that right now, Microsoft is getting rejected at the 21 exponential moving average after closing above it. And I'm already getting some signals of buying exhaustions. So let me show you the last time that I got this signal was in this day right here. And as soon as it's starting to get this signal here that we're starting to get some buying exhaustion, we usually get some really strong moves to the downside. So as long as we continue to trade below a declining 50 DMA, I will continue to go in the direction of the trend that continues to be lower. And for the Microsoft trade, you can use this level or even the 50 up here as your stop and consider using in this level down here as your target. As long as you get your entry as close to the 21 exponential moving average as possible, your risk reward should be a really nice 2 to 1 or even a really nice 3 to 1 risk reward, depending on where you're setting your stop and your target. But I think there's a really strong possibility that we're going to at least test the lows somewhere around these levels right here. So, those are the names that I have for you guys. If you have any questions, just leave a comment. Don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps me out. And also, don't forget to follow me on Twitter, in which I discuss more things about the market, more things about new setups, and I usually share my ideas in real time as soon as I can. And also, I share some psychology tips and things that I have learned through my experience. And thank you so much for watching. Have a really nice rest of your weekend, and thank you so much for watching, guys. Cheers.